today, our study session for the Timpanogos School District, starting at, I will start the recorder, sorry. Okay, we are starting our work session at 4:02. Our first presentation will be by Frank Pulley for our district building options. Turn the time over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. So given the assignment to look at a potential district office located at our Linden campus, where facilities and warehouse is at. Appreciate Jason Sumberg sharing a little bit of information on approximately about how much space potentially would be needed at the district office. So I'll kind of jump right into it so we have plenty of time to ask questions throughout. But one of the criteria said needed about 26 offices and 40 cubicle spaces. And this is what this space represents. So this is the main floor plan. So you can see the offices that go around the perimeter. We put a break room in there. Obviously, we needed some space for some storage, mechanical, an elevator because it is a two-story building. There's a couple of conference room, one large conference room, one kind of mid-sized conference room, and there's about 20 cubicles, which is this white space here kind of to the left. It kind of looks like a little bit of building blocks all stacked together. Right here in the center, we have restrooms. And so there's 4 single-use restrooms, and I'll show you the upper floor has 4 restrooms as well. Up to the top of the screen, kind of right here in the middle, is a main entryway, kind of a foyer. To the right of it, to the right of the screen, is a front reception desk if that was needed. And then to the left here of this main foyer is a stairwell. So before I jump up to the second floor, is there any questions of kind of what's here? Okay. Here's the second floor, very much almost a mirror image, except for the boardroom up on the second floor. And I just as a note, I did it for this presentation, but this boardroom, you could easily exchange it and put it down on the main floor if you wanted. It could be interchangeable, one way or the other. We stuck it up on the second floor just for this presentation. Obviously, the views out of the windows, this boardroom faces north and east, so a direct shot of the Mount Timpanogos mountain range there, which we thought would be pretty cool for a boardroom there. This boardroom seats approximately 120 people, and then plus the space for the boardroom. You can see at the front of the boardroom storage space. If you notice at the Alpine boardroom, there's no place for tables and chairs to be stored. They're always just out in the boardroom. It's just nice to have somewhere to tuck that stuff away when you don't need them. So we put some storage. We also included in here a conference room, and it would have kind of a little kitchenette kind of to the left end of it, where if you need to do dinners or host things in the boardroom, you kind of have a little space to do that. And then also a restroom that would be accessible to the board during board meetings. But this would all be locked off, from the general public so that you have just, a private space where you can, use the restroom, go into closed session. If you're doing a dinner in between study session and board meeting, that you have a place to do that that's private and outside of just the general flow of public coming in and out of board meetings. And then when you come up the stairs, there's a nice foyer outside the boardroom, and then there would be 3 of these restrooms that would be available to the general public and stuff when they come up. But then there's a control door here that locks off, the rest of the office suite and that here. Yeah. Jason asked me to come back up to the main floor.
A board meeting, those 4 down there would also be accessible to the.
Yes, they would, and you Yep, the 4 restrooms would be accessible on the main level to the public, but you can see we put in some control doors here so that the entire office building wouldn't necessarily be open to the public when you're doing evening events like boardroom or community meetings. You could close off the office space so that that's not accessible.
So it looks like there's 2 areas that could absorb that congestion as students and their families gather.
Yes, we kind of did that intentionally. You can see here on the main level, nice big lobby area on the main level, but also we could add another door into this conference room where you could use this large conference room on the main level where you could gather those who you may be recognizing and celebrating to go through procedures. But then as you come up here to the boardroom, again, another foyer area that's here. And certainly if we wanted to slide this, the control door that's, I don't know if you can see my cursor right here to the left, certainly this could be slid back a little bit and this conference room could be an accessible conference room to host, you know, those who you may be recognizing and stuff at board meeting. This is just a very rough draft of some potential possibilities. But you know, these are not fully designed construction drawings, but at least kind of gives you an idea of what it could look like. Just the round button at the very top.
Oh, this one isn't white at all.
Well, it's not white anymore because it is my life. Um, they are, and they're very nice. Thank you. So in my mind, I'm realizing that there's no HR office where all the HR people are doing their work. Instead, they'd use a cubicle, a set of cubicles, and directors would be in the office, and then another cubicle would be for payroll or something, and the payroll directors would be in the office. Is that what I'm seeing this?
Yeah, and we could move some of the cubicle areas if you wanted to section it off, you know, similar to, you know, Alpine District Office where you have, you know, I guess different office suites with inside the office building. Certainly that could be done here if you wanted to. Hey, this is kind of the HR area, business service area. Hey, this is the main administrative area, you know, upstairs. That certainly could be done here. Like I said, this is just a very kind of rough, just to show that, you know, we started with an 18,000 square foot footprint, which is 6,000 square feet smaller than the current Alpine School District office, but still accounted for all the office numbers and cubicle numbers that Jason provided us when kind of an estimated staff size. And so those could be shuffled around to different areas of the office. It's just kind of representing that everything that was provided by, you know, Jason Sundberg, showing that it could fit inside this 18,000 square foot
Okay.
footprint.
Okay. And Jason, I'm sure you did, but just so I'm in my mind, you've included CTE, SPED, uh, professional development, like curriculum and instruction. And you did all the counting as best you could and said this is about what we need.
Correct. And so my best, well, looking at the current Alpine School District district office, I estimated that holds about 97 people, just the building, not the PDC, not the ALC, not what's over where in Linden here. So there, with Alpine district staff is, I'd have to calculate, but at least 200 plus, maybe even close to 300. And what I was estimating for these for our district for Timpanogos would be a little more than 100, but there's about 54 spots that are in the building that's there for that purchasing, technology, physical facilities is in. So needing another about 55 to 65. So in the estimate, it was about 55, but giving Frank the numbers kind of just rounded up a little bit to get like 25 and 40, about 65. So about 10 or 15% more than the first guest, just for flexibility.
Thank you.
I'll kind of show you maybe a potential rendering unless there's any other questions on the floor plan.
I'm just wondering, what's the cost per square foot on this, something like this? And would it just scale us, like if we were to add another 6,000 feet, make it comparable in size to the current Alpine School District building, would it just go up by that amount?
Yeah, so I just looking at the type of construction that's our current district office, which is a little lighter construction than say like we build a school. We're kind of estimating more to $300 to $350 a square foot. Whereas a school, you're going to be more $400 to $450 a square foot. So certainly this is a cheaper type of construction just because its utilization is very different from a school. It doesn't take the same abuse. Yeah.
And so with those numbers, I have those here too. So for 350 would be the top end there. So for the 18,000 square foot would be 6.3 million, and then the 24,000, which would be similar size, would be about 8.4 million.
And what's the plan for like a professional development area where a bunch of teachers or a bunch of administrators can get together in a room?
Yeah, so this has kind of evolved since we've talked to Frank a little bit on things, but you know, one thought is if all of, and we went through department by department and be able to house everybody in this possible new building, the existing building there, and then still having this building could be a potential professional development center. If we decided it was better to just build a potential district office at 6,000 more, you know, this is about 10,000 then. So if we were to do 6,000 or 8,000 more than this current one, then it would be something of maybe eliminating this building in the future of not needing it. So whether we use this one and build smaller there or not have this one and build bigger there, try and figure out the financials on that.
And one thing to note, this boardroom, you know, you see this dashed line that's like right in the middle. We do have it laid out to where this could be split into 2 classrooms. And this would be, each space would be 1,250 square feet. So a typical classroom is about 900. So it's 350 square feet bigger than a regular classroom. So it's a pretty big, so, you know, 40, 50 people in each one of those spaces, you could easily accommodate in both of those spaces. So comfortably 100 people could come and do 2 specific trainings in those
And
spaces.
how many could comfortably fit in here, do you think?
That's my question. Yep. How many?
Sorry, I'm sorry, Sterling.
How much?
It's
So
close to 100.
92.
Yeah. Yeah.
That board.
It's 2,500. Yeah. 2,500 square feet. I don't know off the top of my head.
Jill, do you know what this is? The square footage by any chance?
I can measure that. Just a minute. Let me measure that. My foot's
Yeah, I can get it for you. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
Quite all right.
I mean, I could. I just need to count tiles from real quickly.
It may be size of
Yeah. I mean, my guess it's probably around 1,800 to 1,000 square feet,
if it's
probably.
40 by 40.
Any other questions on the floor plan? This is just a quick image that, you know, maybe is I'm not saying it has to be this way. I just wanted to kind of give you a visual
Is that
representation.
Karen out front?
It's all of you coming and going from the district office. But mainly just to show that, you know, kind of those square foot numbers are based on kind of a very simple, modest design. Certainly you could go more extravagant if you wanted to from an exterior look, but we really liked, I mean, it's just kind of a very simple look and approach to it. So right up here on this second story, this is where that boardroom would sit on the windows that face us. So, and this is oriented the same orientation that it would sit on the property. So it faces kind of that northeast direction. So you'd have some windows that look north and nice big windows that look to the east, which we feel like would be a beautiful view for board meetings for sure.
You can use mine. Okay, I got it now. Okay. Thanks, David. Could this be a tilled up
Yeah, if you want to do a tilt construction,
or as an option?
it could be an option. One thing with tilt, usually you get your best economy of scale on a bigger footprint, which is why you see a lot of it in warehousing type space. Smaller footprints, a lot of times you don't get the same economy of scale to do a tilt up type construction, but absolutely it's a means and methods that could be explored, and it very well could be an economical way to do it.
For those of us not in the construction industry, can you explain what a tilt-up is?
It's precast panels, concrete panels that they pour, on the ground, and then they use a crane and tilt them up.
So like an old-fashioned barn raising kind of a thing?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But with concrete.
Can we have a potluck after?
Here's what it could potentially look and sit like on the site. So I'll zoom into this a little bit, so you can see it. So it fits really, really nice on the site. With this, you can see I don't have it dashed out for parking, but if you look where it's labeled parking, and even if you carry in up to the 2-story building where currently the superintendent and business administrator and Karen and that's at, there's about a total of 134 parking stalls that would be available. And just in comparison, our current district office has 144. So very similar. So I think you'd have adequate parking. I also think we could probably add a little bit of parking over to the north side of the building, and then I think you could do a nice little landscape piece out to the front of it. Would give it just a nice curb appeal off of State Street.
I had a question. If we do decide that we want to go bigger, does 3 stories make sense or a bigger footprint?
We could look and study that to see what makes the most sense. I mean, it's very common to go up. Yeah, you certainly could do a 3-story building. We'd want to just double check with Linden City and make sure there's no zoning ordinances on the height of the building in this area. You may be restricted on that, on how tall you could go. We'd have to check.
And if it did go to 3 stories, that top floor would be ideal for PD space with more opening, right? Just how the bearing walls and things.
And I would just say, if you did go bigger and you were talking about doing PD spaces and stuff there, I probably would recommend that you would look at increasing parking capacity, because then it really is going to be filled up. And I mean, yes, there is a church house across the street, but no, we can count on that as permanent parking. So that was just one thing you'd want to consider if you did. Yeah, I want to be good neighbors. Yeah. We did take a look at the other office space building that's currently there, just to some of the other, that where facilities is located and technology and purchasing, that it can be reconfigured into additional office space if you wanted. But I just want to make sure if there's any other questions with regards to the district office layout.
I just have a point of clarification. Under the current configuration, it would, the number of offices that we would need would have to use some of the offices that are in the warehouse right now, correct? That's what you were figuring on, that we would,
Yeah.
that,
In
so,
that building north of the warehouse.
correct.
Correct.
Yes. So right now, under the current configuration, some offices, some departments would be housed in the district office, and some of them would be housed over here in the technology building. That's correct?
Correct.
And Jason, just going on, is that technology and facilities and purchasing and warehouse that'd be housed there, or is that
Just, yeah,
sped and
the first
CTE.
estimate there was to have technology, purchasing, CTE, physical facilities, and then trying to keep whole teams together. So the whole teaching and learning, research and evaluation, multi-language learner, and SPED kind of all together there. So they're not
all
different
together there?
there.
In,
Correct. But that could change.
Not in the new building?
in the new building.
No, not in the new building, in the other, in the existing.
In the
one, yes.
existing one. SPED over there and teaching and learning over there? Okay.
Concern.
I don't like that.
Another clarifying, once you have the parking and that strip of grass, the next going down on the picture, that's somebody else's property, right?
It
That's
is.
the car sales, whatever it is. Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, if we own that, we would have reoriented the building a little bit different, but, yeah, that is a different property owner.
Can you go back to that, Frank, really quick? Is there an option for, yeah, like to provide more parking maybe for people in that office behind a little bit more? Has that been looked at or thought about, or is that our white fleet that's back there mostly? Just to free up some parking in the front of the building, is there options for more parking in the back?
There absolutely, we could reconfigure some stuff back behind, the two-story office building to where make it more for employee parking and stuff back there, and leave the front parking more accessible to, I'll call it visitors or teachers coming from school sites. So those people that work there every day, they would, encourage them to park in the back of the building. And there's staff entrances off the back. So it's just as easy to get into the building there as it is off the front door. But yes, there potentially could be a fairly decent amount of parking back there, maybe 30, 40 more stalls that could be captured.
Thank you.
Oh, the parking, yeah, all of our parking gets really old everywhere. So it's needed, but we put more of our resources out in the schools than we do for us. I mean like taking care of their parking and pickup and drop off areas before we kind of come to our area. We do it when it absolutely has to be done. But yes, it does need it needs to be resurfaced.
That included in this estimate
It would be included as far as building the
The-
new parking lot
around.
up
the
to
new
it,
building.
yeah. And you could probably get a little bit more into it if you needed to, yeah. So this right now, the image to the left is the current purchasing and facilities, the bottom floor of that office building. This probably looks familiar. Here's the conference room. Superintendent's office is up here in the left-hand corner, and then all the offices wrap around. Obviously, this space is set up great. There's really no need to modify or change any of that. And I would say the same thing over here in the facility side. You've all walked through all of our office space and stuff here, and there's reception and that there, couple restrooms, conference room in the back. So We don't feel like any of that space would need to be changed. There's plenty of office space. You know, obviously facilities isn't going to take up all of it like we are now, and facilities certainly could shuffle to different parts of the building. There's nothing here that's tying us down to that space. It's just office space for us. So that could certainly be shuffled around and look different. But we feel like there's good, really nice office space actually down on that main level that would be a great home and location for different departments that house there. This image over here to the right is upstairs. Up at the top is where the technology department is, and they have it set up specifically for the technology department, their engineering and stuff, and a lot of shared office space. But if you wanted to, you could come in here and you could divide it up to where there's individual offices if you wanted to. And then you can see out here in the middle, you could add some cubicle space if you would like to help, make it bigger for, a specific department that could, all be housed in one particular area. And we took the same type of concept. This is over on the older part upstairs where technology does their centralized deployment for all the computers. And then they have a nice big meeting room space over here. But again, that same concept, there's some offices that are around the perimeter, but you could add some more and you could put in some cubicle space if you wanted to. And the same thing where their big meeting room space is. So you could really capture all of it. We accounted for all of the office spaces and cubicle numbers that Jason initially sent to us. Between the new build that I showed you, the district office, and then this existing space, there's plenty of space for everything to fit, and probably some space there for a little bit of growth. And there's great conference room space in all of those, the new district office that I showed you, as well as this one. There's several nice sized conference rooms in each one, restroom facilities, break rooms. So easily can accommodate different types of departments if you wanted to house them in any of these spaces. That's perfect. That's everything I've got, unless there's more questions.
Are there questions from the board?
Can you go back to the new build so I can just kind of glance at that real fast?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I saw what I needed to see. Thank you.
That was quick.
I just wanted to see if there's a nice big office for Joe.
Yeah, we put 2 of those. Yeah, that was.
It's labeled storage.
That was if you know Joe, that was the first thing he was worried about, is how big his office was.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay. Thank you for this presentation, Frank. This is an initial presentation. It's something that we will need to continue to study, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, Frank.
Oh yeah, what's our time frame? What would be a time frame on this?
We would need probably at least 12 months. Yeah, the more time we have, the better. And the better time frame we have, just the better pricing you get for construction to build. The tighter the time frame that needs to be done and open, then if they've got to increase labor to work overtime and that type of stuff, it costs more. So if it's a good build window, but 12 months would be plenty. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right, great. We have Tara Lynn Tanner here is going to be doing a presentation for us on our fine arts in our new district. Yes. And I am going to talk into that. Oh, because we are being live streamed, so people will be able to hear you from home. It's not on.
I'm a theater teacher. I should know.
Okay,
I'm just not talking loud enough.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you so much, first of all, for letting us come. just a little bit about me. I've been teaching for 25 years. I've taught in rural Utah and I've taught in downtown and New York City. And I've been at Mountain View for about 5 years now. Thank you. I recently sent you a letter and it included information that we had compiled with all of the theater teachers and other performing arts professionals at the Alpine School District. And so it was a large group of theater teachers and others. And so today I'm trying to explain why we sent that letter and kind of go over some of the things. Help you understand that a little bit more. Airplay this. Oh, there. Awesome. So sorry. There we go. So sorry about that. All right. So first, thank you. Thank you for hearing us and for giving us time to present to you. And thank you for attending our shows. Ada has already come to the importance of being earnest. And I've heard through the grapevine that you guys have been to some of the shows throughout the new district. So thank you so much. Our goal today is to begin a strategic partnership that reduces waste of both time and resources, that ensures open and consistent communication, that creates lasting institutional support for the performing arts. And because you've seen in your many school visits that we have unique and complex needs in the performing arts. So I'm here representing theater teachers and the broader performing arts because we're one of the most public facing programs at our schools. We serve thousands of students. We perform for tens of thousands of audience members, and we support countless school and community events in our auditoriums. We're the people that you call when you need a stage, when you need a microphone, or when you need a last minute miracle, right? Candidly, I think that there is a bit of concern among performing arts teachers and arts teachers in general with the district split. There is worry that arts programs will be cut. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm here and why we sent the letter. We know that an arts education makes a huge difference for students. You can see in this little picture, there's a student there who told me and his counselor and his mother in a sit down that he would not have graduated last year had he not been involved in the arts. And graduation rates are increased when students are involved in the arts by 20%. Research shows, right, that it decreases dropout rates, that it increases college attendance, that it improves standardized test scores. So we know that the arts are really important to student success. But beyond the data, I believe that theater and other performing arts teach these skills to students that they need for their futures. They need to be able to stand with confidence. They need to be able to articulate themselves with expression. They need to have leadership skills and develop empathy and vulnerability. These are skills that will never become obsolete. When AI replaces a lot of the things that humans can do, we will still be singing and dancing and storytelling. We will be playing music for each other. Those things will never die. And now those are skills that are a little bit harder to teach on a Chromebook. So our first request is simple. We would love to have a performing arts professional that would be involved in early district planning. Now, there are ways to fulfill this request. The first, which is our choice, is to create a performing arts director, similar to an athletic director, who is responsible for everything in the performing arts. We envision.
Do you see that per school or
No,
at
for
the
one
district as a whole?
Yes. This person would establish baseline staffing, safety, facility standards, and inspections. All of our auditoriums have to be safety inspected every year, and it would be wonderful if we had one person who was checking to ensure that that was happening at all of our schools. This person, as we see them, would ensure that theater teachers and auditorium managers are included early in district decisions and in build decisions. There are lots of reasons for this, but we saw a perfect example out in Westlake when they put in something that then they had to remove and didn't work, and it cost the district a lot of money. So having theater teachers or some kinds of professionals that understand the auditorium early on in those build decisions is going to save us money in the end.
So would they help elementary schools in their builds as well, so that we don't get a curtain along a back black wall doing nothing?
Exactly. I mean, I'm coming from a high school, right? And I know the high schools a lot because we've been visiting to all of the high schools. But yes, it would include auditoriums and those kinds of spaces, orchestra spaces, choir spaces, throughout the district. That's how we see this. We also see this person as making sure that we have equitable resources. They would coordinate logistics and budget, and then be a voice for all of the performing arts. And we want this person to attend our performances and be familiar with our spaces. It's really hard to advocate if you don't understand what it's like to sit in a musical and have the microphones not working, you know? So that ideally is what we would love. However, we understand that you may not want to post, immediate. We need a district performing arts director, and we're still in the planning stages here. And so for now, maybe you would consider appointing a performing arts teacher as a lead that could come and help inform you. You could consider hiring a district auditorium manager, even someone that was part-time or hourly. You could consider hiring an assistant or a secretary, just one person that is going to kind of be this advocate for the performing arts spaces. Our second request is about staffing. And so the most important thing to us is that the performing arts are represented at every school and that each position is full-time if this is possible. With the district split, we want you to endeavor to keep all of the performing arts at every district school, and to ensure that each of those positions is a full-time position. There is a worry that, again, with cutting of certain programs, that we would go to part-time or something like that. And we know that part-time programs suffer when the teacher is not full-time. And we would, of course, also love you to continue the inclusion of assistants on district extracurricular addenda. Right now, we have, line item for example, a marching band assistant. So we would love to have those continue in our new district, and we would love to be included in those. Theater does not currently have an assistant as a line item, and that would be really nice. I know dance would also feel the same. Okay, risks to avoid. We have some major risks that we want you to avoid, so please avoid understaffing if that's possible. Please avoid unsafe facilities. We do have some melted lights and some curtains that haven't been flame proofed, and every school, I'm sure, has a list of our top 3 or 4 priorities. And so making sure that we have safe facilities is going to be a big priority. Please avoid, as we move forward, unstable funding. Many theater teachers are kind of relying on ticket sales to fund our core components. And I cannot tell you how wonderful it would be to have even a small budget for every show. What that would do is it would mean that we could choose to do a Shakespeare play for the good of the education of the students, and not hope that we can pay for it by just getting people to buy tickets to a Shakespeare play. So even a small budget, I think, would really help teachers to feel like they could choose things that are good and educational for students. Oh, yes.
What would you consider a small budget?
I mean, when I started at Mountain View, I would have loved $400 for a play.
Because it, just to reserve the rights to a play, it's going to cost $1,000 at least.
Exactly. And my musical last year cost me $3,300, and I did not have that money when I started.
Huh.
So I had to build to that level.
But
It's
you
taken
think
me 5
$400
years.
would be enough?
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, you can choose shows like Shakespeare that don't cost any rights, but it's harder to get people to come to them. Much easier to do the Little Mermaid, right? But then you have to pay $4,000 for just for the rights, which means that's not costumes, that's not sets, that's nothing, right? Yeah. And so we do find ourselves in kind of a difficult situation sometimes because we are reliant on ticket sales. And that's really hard for first-time teachers and for teachers that are teaching in a junior high or an elementary where they might not get a lot of people to come to their shows. Theater teachers spend a lot of money on their own programs. I'm calling out Leslie Rhodes right now at PG, who last year, I hope her husband is not listening, but we think she spent $10,000 of her own money last year. She's buying things for the students. She's buying food for them. She's going to California to pick up fabric. I mean, this is what theater teachers are doing. They are very devoted to their craft and they want to make it amazing. And so even a small budget is going to help theater teachers. We want to avoid teacher burnout, speaking of Leslie Rhodes. Um, of course, we would love to have an auditorium management help. We want professional assistants. We want a performing arts district personnel who can help us with some of these things. Because many of us teach all day, we rehearse all afternoon, and then in the evening we're asked to run events. Recently at Mountain View, we had Lamb of God, which is an amazing and beautiful event. But you can imagine how a theater teacher might feel after having been at school since 7 in the morning and we're 9:30 at night and still going.
When those events come, where does that funding go? Because I know that we rent out
That
our
is a great
auditoriums
question that we have.
and such. So
That's a great question that I know we would love a little bit more transparency over, because it has gone to the district, at least a portion of it, and then it has gone to the school, but very little of it goes into my program. We get things here and there, but it's not as transparent as we would like it to be with Alpine School District. Finally, inequity. So implementing these pay to participate policies to limit access to students is something that we hope that we can avoid. We want all students to be able to participate no matter their economic status. And then also ensuring that schools in the district have access to similar technology and equipment so that there is equity among schools. And the last is, of course, purchasing equipment that's not industry standard. And it's very easy for us to help you with that. We can tell you what people use and what is kind of obvious that people don't tend to use or like. So remember, we're not just asking for support. We are offering partnership to you. You can refer to my letter again, and then it has this one-page report and proposal. My letter does have links to our cited sources for all of this information. And remember, you have experts ready to help you. We want to avoid costly mistakes. We want to build strong programs. We want to serve students well from day one. I believe if we work together, this district won't just maintain what we have, but it can become a model for what performing arts education can be. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yep, I think we have some questions though. So I wanted to ask about the debate, because you talked about having these teachers that have full class loads, and so but sometimes that's dependent on the demand from students. I know at some schools they don't have enough demand for a full choir teacher, so then they'll share that, or for orchestra, so they'll share that with a junior high. So how do you see the district helping you with that?
Ideally, that we in our hiring are making sure that we have wonderful teachers that will attract a lot of students into their programs.
To be a destination district
Yeah.
for performing arts.
Yeah.
Okay. That resonates.
And the facilities do make a difference in that. The facilities do. And the quality of our shows and the quality of our performances and how we do in competitions, all of those things attract students. Mountain View just won Region Drama. So at our orientation night last night, I had kids coming in saying, should I go to this school or your school? And I was like, look at our trophy. I mean, that's one reason, right? We can show students, look, this is why you should come to our school and why you should be involved in our programs. Now, there are things that schools can do to ensure parity among the arts. I think sometimes what happens is one performing art will balloon and there will be 100 kids that are trying to be in the musical, and then the choir only has 20. Now, that's not the case at my school, but that can be the case at some schools. And so figuring out ways at our school level to ensure that there may be some caps so that all of the performing arts classes can be filled. That's one way.
So I had presented to me a little bit ago somebody's idea that we require, in the past, Alpine has required, I remember some of my older kids were required to take a performing arts class in 7th grade.
Right.
And it's no longer required. Maybe somebody who's been in the district at leadership would know why they withdrew that. But I think it actually really helps kids take a class not knowing whether or not they need it. What do you think of that?
I am, my background, my children went to a liberal arts school, and so I am in firm, proponent of making sure that students get a wide variety of classes. And I think a requirement in the arts, a requirement in performing arts, a requirement in athletics is paramount. It's made my kids well-rounded children, and I love that for them. And I think that is what every kid needs.
Tara Lynn, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Can you just clarify, you're talking about secondary primarily, or?
We
what
did,
are you-
we
referring
included
to
the junior
elementary?
high in our discussions and in our formulating of that letter. And we also included some other performing arts. I spoke to some different dance teachers and choir teachers and a band teacher.
Right, but you're talking junior high, high school, not
Yes.
elementary.
Yes.
Thank you for all that you do. I know that Mountain View is a very diverse
Yes.
school, and I think that's one of the things that students love about it. And I just wondered if you could comment on diversity in the performing arts, and do we have some work to do there? What do you think?
I think so. I think some of our programs lend themselves better to students that don't, for example, speak English very well. Our dance department has a lot of wonderful, brand new ESL students. I have misspoken. Thank you, ML students. And so we have a new choir teacher there this year, but he has had some different languages that are being sung. So yes, I think there's definitely work that we can do. I see that as each teacher needing to consider that and work on that for their own program. I don't know that there's a lot, I mean, there's encouragement that you could do it as a district level.
I heard from a parent who elementary play was not, they asked to go to one high school and they were told that they couldn't come. And they had to go to a junior high, and then the capacity didn't really fit as many as people as they wanted. Is there an agreement between elementary, junior high, high school currently? What do you see that relationship like working in the new district? Do you have any thoughts there?
That's a great question. And I do think that there should be an agreement. I know that we have calendared our entire year already. So if an elementary school is reaching out even in May for next year, we may already have things on the calendar that prevent that from happening.
I think they were trying to work around the high school drama
Calendar.
calendar.
Yeah.
And
But it's
stage
not just the
calendar.
drama calendar. I mean,
Right.
Mountain View has,
They were trying.
they're the Jewel Auditorium, right? Of the of
The
our,
Jewel.
Yes, we are.
we have seen it.
Yes,
So
we are.
Anyway, they were trying to work around the high
Yeah.
school, but I think that the flat answer was just no.
Yeah. We, like at my school right now, we have an admin who is over those outside events, and that person is running the calendar for those. And so I know at Mountain View, we are rented almost every single week, right? We had Irish dancing last week. We had Lamb of God the week before. We have something coming in on Saturday. So I think that a school that does have a big rental situation, I think that for them, it can be very difficult to fit into their schedule. A lot of those people will do their show and then they will immediately book for the next year. It can be very difficult, but our auditoriums are great, and it should be a good thing for us to know, right, that we're highly desirable.
okay, any other thoughts? Thanks, Grace.
My thought is that, is there a way to make it so that there's priority given to schools within the district that want to rent from the high school before they go to outside?
I think her point is that if we had someone in charge of that at the district level, that could be handled, right?
Yeah. And it does
Coordinated.
need to be done kind of a year in advance, which is pretty hard, I think, for some schools. It's, many of us don't calendar until April, and then we get on there and we already have, the Irish dance on a weekend. So it's hard for us as well.
Just from experience working in a school, we would always prioritize our elementary feeder schools and the junior high feeders. But then if they talk to us in December for a February event, there's not
It's already gone. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but that is the way that it is, at least at my school, I can tell you from experience.
Do you have any sense of cost for these requests? Like a total, like if you had assistants, for example, assistants at each one.
Right. So this is our salary schedule. And maybe this is hard to see. This is our current Alpine School District salary schedule. And so, you can see, right, the head of men's basketball gets about $4,000. And that's, of course, just the first year, right? It will build upon that if they have experience. Here we have drama general, which is, doing the plays, doing the competitions. And that is here, 2,600. And then if you do a musical, you get an additional 28 on top of that. So I would say that's generally, I'm spending 400 hours probably to do 2 shows. It's probably about 400, maybe 450 hours for a basketball coach to run a season. I think it's pretty similar. However, you can see that the assistants in marching band, they can have 2, right? And it's about $2,000 per. And you can look down at some of these assistants. I know that drama, for example, would love to even just have a small stipend that we could offer to someone for an assistant. Very often we can get someone who is at UVU or at BYU and is doing theater education and wants to come into rehearsal every day. And so offering them even a small stipend would make a difference in being able to have an assistant.
And that assistant is per event. Is that correct? I mean, like
It could be, or it could be for the year, for the season.
for the season.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure I understand.
Men's-
Go ahead.
Just men's football, right? They can have 7 assistants paid $3,000 each. And so, we would love to have just a line item, and it doesn't have to be that big, obviously. We understand perceived value, thank you. And so, not right, it could be small, especially to start with. And I just think it would mean a lot to people to feel that support. And I don't think it's as much about the money itself as it is the idea of support.
I just want to make sure I understand. When you say each school, you're talking about each high school and junior high?
Well, this is secondary.
Okay, just
Extracurricular
secondary.
addendas. Yeah, this is high school. And there are different ones for junior highs, yep,
Mhm.
that we
Okay.
currently have with Alpine School District.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And then the cost of a performing arts professional that is, on the board, we have had those in Alpine School District. It was a salaried position. Sterling Keys has done it. Lance Major has done it. I think we had Kathy Jolly maybe before that.
She was curriculum.
Oh, more curriculum instruction. Yeah. But she was one that would come to all of the performing arts events, right? She was really great. So just having someone like that at the district that can advocate for our programs and kind of be in charge of all of these duties that I've outlined would be amazing.
I know that I've received some emails about storage of equipment.
Yes.
What's your vision there?
We asked for that at Alpine School District and they couldn't figure it out. And so it would very much surprise me if we could figure that out as a smaller district,
Yep.
To me that, I mean,
We
of
could build a
course,
third
of
floor
course.
on the new district
Yes.
office.
Well,
Yes, absolutely.
what are we talking
course.
about storage-wise? What,
We
like,
would love that.
space? How much square footage would you be talking?
At my school, I have probably, I have 3 big storage containers, a shed and an upstairs, and it's all full of costumes and props and set pieces.
So if we had a centralized
If we
spot,
had a centralized spot,
would there be
however, I
a
do have
problem
to-
with sharing?
There might, and that is the issue, is someone that has been, doing this for many years has collected things that are very important to them, and they don't necessarily want to loan everything out or to have it in a shared space. We all know what happens in a sandbox, right? If the toys are shared, sometimes things get broken, and so that makes people a little bit unhappy, and some are very protective over their stuff and very careful about the people that they will loan it to. And so I think that needs further discussion. We have had those discussions and they are in process right now.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have to move on.
That's why you.
Okay, we're going to talk now about our boundary study. So we heard from Jason last time about kind of our process. So we need to talk with the board about our thoughts, as we feel important that we need to set our criteria and our priority as a board so that when we give things to staff as far as what we're asking for, they have direction. So that is our ask. What are our priorities as we are looking at opening a boundary study? What do we want to achieve? What we just are trying to gauge the will of the board as leadership so we can make the ask of what we're looking for here.
And I would build on that we've had a lot of different ideas around a boundary study about a 9-12 high school system, a pure feeder system, a robust enrollment at elementaries. And all of those have been part of our discussion. And I think now that we are approaching, we've talked about things. What are our priorities? Where do those things fit as we look at them? Because they're bound, at least I think they're bound to bump up against each other. And so it'll just be helpful as we move forward if we have some idea about what's most important to us as a board. And so we really are just inviting a discussion amongst ourselves to find out where are we in this process as a first step?
I think some of our discussions have included right word, robust or well-established PLC, professional learning communities in every school. And we would probably have to define that. So that would be something that I think we all have been on board with. Also equity of programs, and also possibility of maybe thinking outside of the box in terms of programs, and looking at other districts and seeing how they implement perhaps DLI and ALL programs.
And I'm just going to follow up then, Michelle. Is that, from your perspective, is that your most important priority in a boundary study over 912 or a pure feeder system? I'm just trying to gauge. I'm not trying to pit one of those against the other,
Right.
but I'm just trying to get a sense of where
I
we
think
might
as I've
sit.
talked to parents, that is a strong priority, a high priority. So I will say yes.
And I would concur. I think that's in my mind right now, that's the highest priority, is elementary schools having robust, if that's the word we're using, or big enough schools that they can collaborate, and the education of the students not impacted by the lack of collaboration, the lack of enough teacher thinking to help ensure high quality instruction, genuine learning, etc. I'd also like to know what the actual, and I know we've speculated this, but kind of balance sheet with pencil in hand, how much would we really save by putting ninth grade at the high school? And what are the ramifications for the junior highs if we do that? Outside of, well, in addition to the CTE, which we've talked about in our visits, are there other ramifications that we would need to be aware of in order to make that decision? And I'm not saying that's number two, that's just on my mind.
I agree that ninth grade to the high school and or true feeder system, I think is at the top of my list, just because I think it will impact for good the most kids in the district. I do believe that ninth grade going to the high school academically as well as program based is the best thing for those age kids.
Will you explain why you think it's best for ninth grade academically to be at the high school?
Yes. Right now my kids go to Lake Ridge Junior High. It's a great school, but the majority of that school goes to Mountain View. The way Mountain View does science is different than the way Orem High does science. My kids go back to Orem High, and they often are not as well prepared for how it does it there as they would have been if they'd just gone to Mountain View. So academically, and those kids that are more advanced in ninth grade could actually start taking AP classes earlier. So academically, it just is sound. It's easier for high schools to control and make sure all of the kids graduate or are on track. Now, Lake Ridge does an excellent job of getting them there, but it would just be easier for the kid academically. And also in programs, a lot of kids just stop taking band if half their friends are going to the opposite school, or whatever, fine arts or music and sports. It's equal. If you are not going to Mountain View from Lake Ridge, the team at Orem High doesn't even know you exist because you just get shuffled and lost.
Oh, I don't want, this is not an argument to this, is just my perception. When we've, in Alpine, when we've had ninth grade at the high school, Sky Ridge, Cedar Valley, the ninth grade on track for graduation has been far lower than the ninth grade at our junior highs. At junior high, the ninth grade at the junior high, that's kind of the apex. And that's what's being concentrated on often. Whereas the ninth grade at the high school, they're hardly afterthoughts academically because everybody's going towards those seniors, making sure they graduate. So that's something that we'd have to think about if we do move to ninth grade. How are we going to make sure that that isn't replicated permanently in our high schools?
So can I ask, are those I haven't seen the data, and so maybe that's something we need to look at. If ninth grade is in a high school, are you talking about the ninth graders themselves not on track to graduate, or
Correct.
did the actual graduation rate go down?
Ninth graders at the high school are subs- significantly, I'm going to use the word, whatever that means, behind what the ninth grade at the junior highs are in Alpine School District. I'm not sure if you leave Alpine whether that's the case, but I do know that's the case in Alpine.
For just ninth graders, but they seem to catch up by the time they graduate, and the graduation rates are fine. Because I'm thinking, at least in ninth grade at Lake Ridge or in the junior high right now, they have a limited amount of classes that these kids can take. So they're kind of forced into making sure that they are on track to graduation. Whereas there's a little bit more flexibility in the high school.
Sure.
So you may not think they're not on track, but at the same time, they're just taking an online class at the same time. Whereas they didn't have that option in ninth grade. So they're just in the junior high. So they're just taking more options. If it affects actual graduation rates, that would be a problem.
It'd be interesting to look at that because I know Alpine in general has a very high graduation rate from school to school to school to school. All the schools, even our alternative schools, have a pretty high graduation rate. But how much is that affected by ninth grade not being on target and deciding to drop out? I don't have an answer on that one.
Well, and I wonder, David, if a lot of those schools, Skyridge, Westlake, Cedar Valley, they were all built with the idea that eventually they would be 9-12, but they did this just, weren't they? I mean, that they would be 10-12, right? So this was kind of a temporary thing. So maybe in the setup of those schools, those ninth graders were kind of not thought of because they were looking forward to the fact that they would be eventually 10-12 high schools and not 9-12.
I have a question for Jason. It seems like that you've been, or somebody in the room who has been with Alpine a little longer. Every meeting I've been to when they've taken ninth grade back out of the high school, the feedback has been parents are sad. They like ninth grade in the high school. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard, and I've had some family members that have been in that, and I think they have loved being in the high school. I think the concern there is what David's saying is it's really good, or just to be able to understand that. So to structure the counseling to say there may need to be a counselor that's only over ninth grade, and the rest take the 10-12 to be able to, because I think at the junior highs, more than a third of the focus is on the ninth graders compared to the seventh and eighth, but just be able to have that in mind.
Well, and building on that, then it seems that it's possible by moving ninth grade to the high school, we appropriately adjust expectations for counselors and administrators. Then at the junior high, or the focus could be on seventh and eighth graders, rather than they being the afterthought, because ninth grade needs to be the focus. They are on track, right? Because that's when it counts. That's when it starts counting for credits. And so what I'm hearing, though, for you, Grace, is that's a really high priority from your perspective. And True Feeder. Yeah, so as I've been thinking about True Feeder, I can see True Feeder from junior high to high school and elementary to high. And you could have it could be true if it was true. There's two transition points, right? It could be true here and a little bit messy here, or it could be true here and a little bit messy here, or it could be true feeder, all the way up. Do you have a preference or a priority amongst that?
Oh, yes.
If you followed that. Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay. And I can see all the different variations. I grew up in a true feeder system. My whole elementary school went to the same junior high. The whole junior high went to the same school. Very true feeder. And then if you had just the same junior high going to the same high school, that would help programs. If you had at least that much, my contention is that it's if you had the elementary school split and go to two different schools, unless it's a pretty even split, you have serious social impact on these kids. Now, can they get over it? Yes. sometimes they're more resilient and they can get over it. But if you really want to help all kids, each child have the best experience, having the whole group go together is helpful.
So
And
to reiterate what you said, so clean feeder where possible, even splits. I mean, we could maximize like a 60-40 would be the max that we would want to be from elementary to junior high.
like Sarah Park, when Sarah Park was an elementary school, it kind of just depended on the year because your geography. Sometimes the majority of the kids would go to Lake Ridge, sometimes the majority would go to Canyon View, right? And then we built or combined Hillcrest and Sarah Park to Centennial. Now the vast majority of kids go to Lake Ridge. There is a small minority now that goes to Canyon. And that's a little more difficult on those kids because it's just such a small group that's going.
Okay. I had thought. But junior high to high school would be a priority. It just, I mean, just for numbers, we just might, that's something we're gonna have to look at. So that's something that I think we need to look at as we're running that map tool, is that we
Mhm.
can see how that is gonna impact and keep that in mind. Okay. Can I,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, Ada.
Yeah, I would just say, to me, my top priority is having schools that are operating optimally in the PLC, meaning there are choices for parents, that there's hopefully at least 4 teachers per grade level, 3 to 4 teachers per grade level, so that there are choices every year for their kids, and different kids have different needs. I do know that if we're thinking about our educators, we do need to think about over enrollment and under enrollment. And for that purpose, to me, true feeder is not quite as important, just because it can result in obvious over enrollment and under enrollment that we don't always have control over. So I would need some more information about that before it became my number one priority on the secondary level. It puts pressure on teachers when their classroom size, the class size expands because the school is over enrolled. So I
And are
balance.
you thinking over-enrolled at the elementary level?
No.
Or you're thinking over-enrolled at the
Secondary
at
level.
the secondary level?
Yeah.
You
Pardon?
don't think it's possible to have the same population going on to the same high school without it being too many kids in one and too little in one?
Well, I'm just saying that it varies. It varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. So, I mean, that's why we don't have true feeders right now, is to balance enrollments. That would be my supposition. I would need more information about it. We'd need to study it out to see if that was the result or not. If it's not, then I don't see a problem with it. But that does need to be something that we look at before we act.
One of my questions, and Ada kind of answered this, was so if we talk about a robust and elementary enrollment at each school, do you, and Ada answered, hers was about 4 classes per grade would be a robust. So with each of you, what would be your definition of robust?
3 to 4, 700-ish is what. 3 to 4. Yep.
I think 3 is really good. I don't have a problem with it being smaller if it's only like 1 grade, but once it needs to be at least.
Yeah, my minimum is 3, 4. I think there are certain, and I think we need, from my perspective, I think it's valuable for us to not lock into on a specific one value, but a range, because there are some areas that, you know, just there isn't growth there, and it doesn't make, I mean, and it would be senseless on our part to try to think about combining over larger and larger spaces. So if we've got, but for me, a minimum, we've got 3 classrooms at each grade level, you can have a solid collaboration space. You still are giving options parents for teachers at a particular grade level, and you can still provide programs.
Yeah.
Can
And
I ask? Okay.
Go ahead.
When we say 3 to 4, does that include perhaps there's a DLI program with the English?
Yeah, Michelle, that for
That's
me,
where it gets a little tricky,
that is
right?
where it's tricky, and I think
Okay.
that's where, as we're thinking about this, it pulled for me anyway. Sorry, it pulls in that question of DLI and ALL and these magnet programs, because they currently have been used to support and prop up enrollment at different schools, but that's requiring for out of area, and I'm just not convinced that that's the right approach. I'm not convinced that it's the wrong approach, but I have some questions about it, and so yeah.
I think the question of specialty opportunities is another one that comes with a more robust enrollment, is that you're able to have more FTE for specialty. I think that in Alpine right now, we try to offer a standard offering at each elementary. But anything above that has to be based on student enrollment. Is
And what
my
is that standard?
I'm going to look
Computer?
like professionals. Okay, I think we have people in
Katie?
the room that could answer that question. I think we need you at your mic.
So fine arts, to repeat what Katie Bowman said, fine arts, computer, and PE are supported by state core at this point, and are the 3. Okay. So music or dance, yeah, different options for fine arts, for arts, yeah, and okay.
But am I correct in that anything you offer in addition to that has to be based on student enrollment?
So it just depends on how many FTE you have. So because FTE are allocated according to student enrollment, so that 0.07. Now, if you as a school you want to use additional school funds, whether it's through Trust Lands TSSA or some admin money at the school level, still within those state core criteria, you could add additional using your school level funds to supplement your offerings.
Okay, and then we just have a few more minutes. We need to talk somewhat about our timeline. So what do you feel as a board we need to have done and presented to us, or things that we have studied out before we start making these major decisions?
Based on last 2 weeks ago, we would need to make sure we get clear in our mind what the date is that we have to announce what that we're studying versus what that we're closing versus that we're opening. That we'd have to make sure we have those dates in mind as we come up with what you're asking for. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
and from my perspective, again, that what we learned last work session was around the legal requirements for different actions that we might take. There's 30-day, if there's a boundary change, there's a 90-day requirement if there's a school closure, right? That's the minimum. And in that process, we've got to then notice and allow for public hearings and that sort of thing. I think what Jen and I think all of us, we're wondering, what do we envision that process looking like? And do we want to go beyond just the minimum of what the state's asking of us? I know for myself that when we're talking about boundary changes, when we're talking about potential school consolidations, that has a huge impact on the lives of those people who are impacted and communities. And so I know for me, I really value having opportunities to listen to see what are they thinking, what are their thoughts and solutions to the issue. So from my perspective, I'm kind of inclined to think, what do we need to do to get some input and not just meet the minimum? Because we need our communities partnering with us, and part of us not. Anyway.
Yeah, in talking with Eric Woodhouse, I think it would serve us really well because I think he's done a really good job over the last few years. When he starts doing a boundary study, he goes way above and beyond the legal requirements, and he's got some pretty good things outlined that you do way before and throughout and on the back end that just make it smoother. So I think we would be well served to tap into that resource.
I agree with that. I think, I don't know if we open a formal boundary study and then do some informal things, or if we just do some informal things and then open formal boundary study. But I do think there needs to be a lot of input from each school community, focus groups. We need to get community. I think that takes time outside of the required 30-day, 90. And
Yeah, I think that's our kind of our thought as far as, yeah, that informal or formal, what we want to do. Just because we've opened a boundary study, but I think we've all benefited immensely from our visits to the schools. And so I see that as just taking this a step further
right.
as we're just information gathering. We're in information gathering mode. So I guess my question is, do we need to open a boundary study to start doing that? Or,
And
I
then
mean, it doesn't, my thought is it doesn't hurt. Yeah,
Right,
it doesn't hurt.
And my question too, that I think Joe going to each school community and talking about the vision, is that different than this boundary discussion? So, you know, we're doing, not to think that we're doing a lot, but that's a lot of work. That's a third visit to every school. So let's make sure that, I don't know, that's a lot to plan. We need to make sure we're giving ourselves time if that's our goal.
A couple of questions that I have for us then to think about is, do we think it's feasible, reasonable to engage with our communities and constituents during the summer months? Or do we kind of think, okay, school's out, therefore we're out and they're out? Do you know what I'm saying? Because we're coming up close to end of the year, then the summer, and then we're there. I mean, you know, and then we are starting to bump up against, hey, that's timelines, right? Because we understood, I mean, then we've got a hard deadline on December at the very latest that we have to make some kind of announcement. That seems, anyway, so.
I wonder if what we need to do is set some goals for what we're trying to accomplish. And I think this discussion is really good. And then have our staff identify, okay, based on your priorities, these are the following things that we feel need to happen. And of course, all of this is contingent on our budget. So
I don't follow. What do you mean by our budget?
The budget is the bottom line. We have to have a balanced budget at the end of the day. So I feel like that we need to have our staff, based on our priorities, identify, okay, these are this is what needs to be accomplished. I don't know how to say it more clearly. I think we have to identify the schools that are under enrolled, identify the areas that have to be involved in conversations. That's the nature of the boundary study. Are we just going to notice every single school?
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's the plan.
we'll just notice every single school. Okay.
Our boundary, I mean, it's going to be every school is going to be impacted as far as possible changes. So we don't
Okay.
know for sure. So I think to be safe, we postcard everyone, and that's going to be the starting point, right? Is to send a postcard to every person. Boundary studies being conducted. Your school could be impacted, whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, when we talk about the mother of all boundary studies, this is it. And this is what we've been talking about and coming towards, I think, this whole time.
So from a process structural, and we're bumping up against our deadline, but I'm just wondering, Jen and I have just wondered about the wisdom in actually forming two boundary committees. One that is primarily tasked with the robust elementary offerings, and one that is tasked with the 9-12 pure feeder system.
Good question.
And we know that there's interaction there, and we would need to provide opportunities for there to be, a flow of information between those two committees. But those we felt or feel, I hope I'm not misspeaking, that those are different issues, and we are going to be asking ourselves different sorts of questions around that. And so we just see some wisdom, at least right now, possibly forming those two committees, studying those two different thoughts.
Yeah, so instead of having just one boundary study committee that would be of 3 board members, this will allow us to have 6 board members with eyes on this, dealing with 2 different issues. But there would be, and then we could do that more nimbly, as we know, as we don't have to do it in a public meeting. There would be the give and take, and then we'd be presenting things in a work session. I would imagine our work sessions will continue throughout the summer, that we will have each committee presenting and then discussing it as a board. So
I think that's a great way to put a handle on the problem. 2 handles. 2 handles on the
It's
problem.
not a problem, it's an opportunity.
It's just an opportunity. Yes. Thank you.
okay, so we'll go about with that, forming those committees. So Sterling and I will do that. If you have a request, let us know.
I think we're going to put Grace on the robust elementary. Oh no, got that wrong. Maybe on the pure feeder system.
That's right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. Well, we are going to adjourn our work session, as we've done everything that we just scratched the surface, but we're making progress, and we'll adjourn and meet back here at 6 o'clock for our board meeting. our board meeting. Um, okay, call everyone to order now that we're all seated. We're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Darren Draper, and then we'll have an inspirational thought by Katie Bowman.
Logistics of where to face the audience. I wanted to share with you a quote that has been really impactful in my life, and it's actually from Marcus Aurelius, which is a ancient Roman emperor. But it says, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And it's all about mindset, that as we come through things in life, encounter differences of opinion, or come to new opportunities, there are sometimes things that on the initial interaction are something that stops progress. It could be a perception, or it's not part of my plan. But then as you engage, as you learn, or it could, if you think about a hike, I'm looking at Darren, sometimes the most beautiful views come from deviating a little bit around that obstacle, and it creates and builds opportunity, resilience, and can have new outcomes that wouldn't have been possibilities if we hadn't encountered that obstacle. So I would just leave that with you. I have enjoyed the wrestle that you're, as a board, have been engaging in, and we are on a path that we are smacking into. New, I wouldn't say impediments, but new obstacles to consider that are creating really fabulous opportunities for us and for the students and families that we serve in this district.
Thank you so much, Katie. We now have time set aside for community comments. Patrons who wish to address the board were asked to sign up prior to the meeting, and this opportunity is reserved for patrons living in our district and other invited guests. Individuals living outside of TSD can submit written comments to the Board of Education. There is time on the agenda to allow for up to 30 minutes for public comments. 10 patrons will be given a maximum of 3 minutes each to address the board. Written comments, if you weren't able to sign up in time, can be submitted to the board at our website, which is found at alpineschools.org under the district dropdown. Speakers should introduce themselves by stating their name, and the board does not engage in a discussion during the public comments, but may arrange a follow-up time for additional conversation. Also, I have noticed that a lot of times in our board comments later in the meeting, some of those things are addressed. Personnel issues are not appropriate discussion items for an open meeting environment. If you have a personnel concern, we ask that you please put your concerns in writing and address it to the Board of Education. The Timpanogos School District is a legislative body, and as such, it functions under the same operational rule as other similar bodies, such as the state legislature. Public input during its formal meetings is to assist the board in ascertaining public attitudes and interests. It is not a forum for open discussion or debate between the board and patrons. Tonight we have our first commenter is Sarah Beeson.
Good evening, board. Since there's two of us, we would like to combine our time. We know that you're going to probably be sticking to that 3 minutes, so if we could at least have 5 for just a minute. There's probably not a person up here, well, there isn't a person up here that I don't know, admire, and respect. And it's just so great. This is such a great district, and I am just thrilled to be here tonight. Mark and I are representing Alpine School District Board of Education, and we're here tonight because with all the changes with districts and things going so fast, we didn't have an opportunity to thank our business administrator, our previous, and your new business administrator. And we just wanted to take an opportunity to publicly thank Jason Sumberg for all he has done and his years of service for Alpine School District. Jason, I hope you know how much we have loved and appreciated working with you. And for those of you that don't know Jason well and that live in this area, I just want to say, as a former board member and to the new board here at Timpanogos, you have got a gem. Jason is a wonderful person. I have always felt his integrity and honesty as he has approached budgetary things for us. I do girl math, and so I have appreciated the fact that Jason took so much time to explain things to me, his personal time to sit and help me understand the things that maybe I was struggling with. I have always felt his commitment with all areas. I live in the central area, and I've always felt that Jason cared about every area in our district, and that was so obvious of how he approached things. Probably my favorite thing about Jason is his ability to not react. And I think that's a really important attribute to have when you are choosing a business administrator. There may be information that you're not comfortable with, and maybe you're going to be going through some times and you need someone who is steady. And Jason is a steady, steady hand. And he is deeply missed in Alpine. We love and appreciate him. And just as a personal friend, thank you for being so kind. We also love Katie. Katie, can you give your phone to your father-in-law and come up for a minute? Behind every good man, of course, as you know, is a great woman. And Katie is wonderful. And she has put up with so many probably hours. He should have been just home focused on his family, but probably was helping a board. And so we have some flowers for you. And we just want to say, family.
And I just wanted to maybe talk a little bit about this district. And it was a really hard time for Jason when there were bodies that wanted different truths. And he was always providing accurate information, wasn't bullied by somebody who wanted. And that is a sign of integrity. No matter what outcome bosses are wanting, give you the truth. And I hope value that. Not always easy as board members. Here's something that you do, but it's what you need to get to see. Grateful. And a truth. Have him greater. I just feel it's a real honor to let him know that we.
Great. Thank you, Sarah and Mark. Our next commenter will be Lon from Pleasant Grove.
I just want to make a few comments. I'm a father of 2 kids that have graduated here in Pleasant Grove, as well as I'm a husband of an educator of 20 years. And these are my personal comments. They don't reflect, or I'm not here because of my wife. I'm here because I'm concerned about my wife lives teaching and being an educator, but she's beginning to sour on a little. And some of the things that she's experiencing in the classroom, particularly in your study session, you talked about boundaries. She's in a school that the enrollment is staying level as far as I understand, but in the grade levels, they change. She's a 4th grade teacher, and this coming school year, her 28 kids is going to be increased to 36. And the classroom are going from 3 4th grades to 2 4th grades. That requires the shifting of 1 teacher to go into 6th grade, and they're losing 1 spot because of a retirement. Now that puts, in my opinion, an enormous amount of kids in the classroom for 1 year, because the next year it's anticipating that it'll drop back to 3 4th grades, and then they'll be short a teacher. As you look at your boundaries, I think you need to be a little bit more focused in what the actual, the aggregate number's fine, but what happens to the classrooms. 36 students, in my opinion, is horrible. And that's what she's faced with, and she's tiring of it. Just a few weeks ago, we experienced parent-teacher conference. My wife had 7 parents show up out of 28 kids. And 4 of those, my wife had to make personal contact with the parents to please come in and let's talk, because she felt that the kids need separate attention. And that's not her fault that the parents don't show up. It's the parents' fault. And parents need to be involved in education of our kids. And it shouldn't be put on the shoulders of the teachers to engage them in homework, engage them in reading. You know, the landmark is 3rd grade, is they should be reading proficient. And those that don't get it in the 3rd grade and now they're in 4th, to close, please put some focus in the educators in our district. They're tired. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, up next, we have the approval of minutes. The minutes were sent to the board last week, I believe. And so we have the approval of the minutes from our work session on March 11th, and then our board session minutes on March 11th as well. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
So I have a motion from Board Member Fugel and a second from Board Member Rex. Is there any discussion about those minutes?
Just a thank you to Karen for getting those out to us well in advance of the meeting. Appreciate that.
Any discussion? None? Okay, seeing as there's no discussion on this, all in favor of approving the minutes from our work session and our board session on March 3rd, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, seeing none opposed, that passes. I'm going to turn the time over to our superintendent, Joe Jensen, for some other stuff.
Yeah, so the 2 action items we have for tonight, the first is the approval of the updated budget, which is in your folder, and we'll turn the time to Jason Sunberg to talk to that.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. You have a copy in your folder also. The first page looks like it might be on the back there, so it's the original operations budget, December 10th, 2025. So this is the budget that was approved by the board in December. It's the one that at the bottom says 818,000. So going through this quickly, the income at the top, the 1.399 million, is the $60 per student based on the October 1 count of the schools within Timpanogos district this last October. So about 1.4 million of revenue or income to be able to use there. These categories were set by the board back in December. Some estimates of at the very beginning going into this with wages, benefits, and then some other expenses there. If you flip to this, yeah.
This was done before we had a business administrator, just FYI.
And I think it was an excellent work. Whoever did it, I would hire in my team. All right, so if you turn that page over on that one, the original budget, still showing that, but there's a little bit on the right side. So this part here that still says December 10th on the top. This is a little bit of a crosswalk to just be able to see what categories those would now be in as we're using the accounting system that Alpine uses, which has been called Alio, which is now called Link. So each one has some account numbers. And so these, if you see kind of in the middle, there's those numbers that say 01, 02 down to 06. We'll show that more on the next page, but this is kind of the categories of the object as you categorize expenses. So salary is of course what wages is, so that's the same, the 250. The benefits there is the 150, and this is still looking at the original budget. City reimbursements would be considered like a contract services, and then all the other items listed on the original budget from materials and supplies, computer equipment, board expenses, general expenditures would all be kind of lumped into that supplies and materials. So this is just as we flip to the next page to kind of get a comparison of what those object numbers are with the 01 through, it's actually 01 through 08 when we look on the next page. So as we look at the third page, which should say revised operations budget, March 25th, 2026, this will show the same about $1.4 million that came on January 1st. There's also an additional $98,500, $98,500 for credit that we'll also be getting. This goes to with some of the salaries that Alpine is still paying for employees of new districts. So because the superintendents for both Aspen Peaks and Lake Mountain came from positions in Alpine's cabinet leadership team, the Alpine is paying their salaries through the end of this fiscal year that they were receiving. And so Timpanogos is receiving a credit for the average of those two. So that's the $98,500, which includes salary and benefits for those superintendents for those days. As we get down to the revised budget, you can see over on the left the expenditures, the 01 through 08. So those are a good description of what those, and this kind of builds as we go to future years with budgets, you'll be able to see what those are. So in 01 in the object is always salary. 02, which there could be many items. It could be health insurance, Social Security and Medicare, workers' comp, other things that go into the benefits. And then we have contract services, purchase property services, other purchase services, which in this case includes mileage and professional development. Then there's the big one there, the supplies and materials, property and equipment, and then professional dues. So as we've come now 3 or 4 months into the new district, we have expenses, which is in this YTD or year-to-date column. So far with payroll that's happened for December, January, and February, and expenses that happened up through last week, there's about $84,000 that's been spent. And then the revised budget is down a little bit from the original of about 581 to about 360, with kind of getting a clearer picture as we go through things of things costing a little bit less, some of the salaries being paid by Alpine still through the end of this fiscal year. And so about 360,000 is the estimated expense budget for the rest of the fiscal year, which would be a total at the end of the year, including from December through June 30th of 2026. So that leaves that 1.14 million that will be carried over to next fiscal year, which is good because the next payment for the $60 per student doesn't come till January. So there's 6 months worth of year that we need to be able to have that funding for also. And so Yeah, that's where we're at there. Then the last page on the back is the revised capital budget. It's been discussed that Alpine will provide each of the 3 districts an advance on some of the building fund to be able to have projects that they see fit. So about $10 million for our district. And so on that, it's pretty simple here, just revenue coming in of 10 million and setting a budget of 10 million that most likely just a very small amount will be in this fiscal year that will carry over to FY27 for projects that the board deems necessary. Went through that. Any questions, comments with that budget?
I just noticed on the capital budget, it refers to Fund 32. Are there standard practice numbers, or does each entity create that themselves?
Great question. Internally, you could do whatever, I guess, on that, but those are set at a state level. So for like Alpine, the ones that are Fund 32, 33, and 30 all go to Fund 32. So Fund 32 is the capital, and Fund 31 is debt service. So those are the 2 in the 30s. Fund 10 is pretty standard throughout districts, being the general fund. So you could call it something else internally, but you'd still report to the state in that case, like a Fund 10.
I've always wondered that. Is it, so it's state, those are state numbers.
Correct. And even more, even not only in the funds, but in the programs, the objects, the functions. So when we're looking at these O1s, and those are the first 2 numbers. So when it says O1, that'll be the first, everybody's salary in Alpine or in Timpanogos, their salary will be paid at an O1 object, which is part of the long account number, but it might be an O131, which may be hourly teacher, or O133, which is certified teacher, or like contract teacher, or so the last 2 numbers after the O1 are going to specify kind of which category it's in, but everything in O1 would be a salary.
Jason, I noticed that we have not spent anything out of the 03 contract services. Did we decide that we weren't gonna reimburse cities, or that there wasn't anything to reimburse, or?
So if you look at the original that Jen worked on, that was the 15,000. That's what kind of the estimate that we were told. But now that we're in an open meeting, we've let them know we haven't received a bill, I guess. But.
Yeah, we haven't received a bill. We've let them know. This is for part of it's the interlocal creation. There was some fees paid for maps, I believe, and other expenses that we told them that we would pay for. So we told the interlocal as an entity. So I don't know who, I could maybe speak to this as to who was writing the checks for that. But as we meet with our municipalities this coming next few weeks, we can make mention of that.
That'd be a good discussion to have. I think it's more than that, but anyway, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there's a certain amount that we can't reimburse for, like if they hired a lobbyist, a school district can't have. So that's out of us being able to pay, but it's for things that are allowable for a school district to be able to pay.
Yeah, and I think we've made them aware that anything that we can reimburse, we would be open and willing to pay.
And I think that would be split 4 ways.
Yeah.
For the 4 cities.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't know how they did accounting. Someone had told me that Linden had paid it, and then the other districts or other cities had paid them or something.
I heard it was
I don't
Orem.
remember though, so
It was probably Orem.
we will work that out when we're meeting with our municipalities.
Orem has the big bucks, so anyway, that's
Any other discussion from the board? Any questions? Understanding needed?
So if we decide to build a district office like was discussed, that would come out of the capital budget. And approximately that what they showed us to.
Yeah, so if it was about that 18,000 square feet, it would be about, if it was $350 per square foot, it's about 6.3. 6.2. If it was a little bigger, it's just scaled by that. So I think we said 6.2 up to 8.3 or something like that, depending on the size. If it got even bigger, then if we decided to do a little bit more, it would just scale with that. So I think in any of those scenarios, it's going to be less than the 10 million.
Would we pay for that all up front, or would that be like a portion of finished following year?
Yeah, great question. Usually on those construction projects, yeah, you're still, even after completion, because then things get billed. So even if it was ready to go in July of 27, you'd still have bills that would be coming in that or that FY 28 of paying everything off. And usually you hold back, just so projects are completed, you hold back a certain amount so that everything gets completed and then there's a final payment. So I would imagine that the final payments would be into that next fiscal year.
So then we wouldn't, so that it might not all go against this 10 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Would that be a contract with us, Alpine?
Great question. I think right now it's kind of one and the same in that the funds, we don't have our own bank accounts. We just have in the accounting system, we'll have portions. So even right now, like Alpine is paying our payroll and our accounts payable checks. So I think the contract with with the contractor would probably be Timpanogos, but then the payments or a combination of both districts in building that. The other thing as I was working on this for FY26, we also kind of a preliminary for FY27, just to be able to kind of get started. So that's kind of a work in progress that we're working on and we'll have ready to review when the fiscal year starts in a few months.
That's tricky because the fiscal year's July to June, right? But the money that we get from the 188 January, is that a little tricky, or you just?
No, it should be fine, especially with the amount that we have carrying forward and with how the budgets work with Alpine. I mean, there's not a check on January 1st, even this last year that they gave us. It was just that the budget was available. So it's just kind of working more in budgets than in the actual money because that money is staying in Alpine accounts. But
Okay, seeing as how we have the revised budget, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the revised budget for fiscal year 26.
Second?
I so move.
So we have a motion from Board Member Smith and a second from Board Member Wilson. Is there any further discussion about this?
Just grateful to have a budget prepared by our BA. Thank you so much, Jason.
Ditto. Okay, any other comments? Okay, all in favor of passing this new revised budget that doesn't change much, just keeps things in line, actually saves us money. We've got more money moving forward. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, seeing as unanimous.
Okay, the second item on the agenda, action item, is just the board meeting schedule. If you'll look in your folder, there's just two proposed changes. The first one is moving our April 22nd meeting to April 15th. And the reason for that is there are several resolutions that are going to need to pass. And our April 22nd meeting is scheduled after Alpine School District's meeting that month. And we need to do it in the order where the three districts pass resolutions and Alpine passes the resolution. So the proposal is that we just switch to 1 week earlier, to April 15th on that one. And then the other change is on May 13th. Special ed the special ed department has been awesome to work with. Jill has been amazing to work with here. But at the end of the year, they have to use this room to gather all the files, and it's something they just can't move, have to keep it walking. And so we are looking at a different location. But those are the two changes to the calendar that we need to do.
And I'm gonna throw a wrench, and I don't know, help me if I'm doing this right. So I received an email last night, or maybe it was text, about possibly moving our May meeting to the 6th instead of having it, since we are moving the April meeting up a week, moving the May meeting up a week, and then we could still have it at this location. So I want to throw that out there. Is that?
Yeah, you can amend the.
I'd like, so I would like to amend what has been presented here to change our May meeting. And we all know that May for schools is a crazy time. So I think earlier in the month might even be a little bit better. That being said, we may still have need of a work session later in May, so you're not off the hook 100%, but that would be a little bit more flexible. If we were doing a work session, we might not need to do the live streaming. We could just record and then post. So that is the amendment that I would like to make. Do I motion that then?
Yes.
I'm motioning that we amend this schedule to change our May 13th meeting to May 6th, and then the location wouldn't need to be changed. Can I get a second?
Motion.
Okay, get a second from Board Member Sorensen. Is there any discussion on this?
Like that idea.
Any other comments?
I don't see my kids full school. I have a disagreement, but right now it looks great.
Okay. Earlier May is usually better. I find earlier May is always better.
I find that having anniversary, that no part of May actually never do it.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of changing our schedule to moving the April 22nd meeting to April 15th, and then moving the May 13th meeting to May 6th? Oh.
I think we better.
See, I knew this was going to get tricky for me. Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment. Okay, so we're voting on the amendment of moving the May 13th meeting to May 6th. It's not on our thing here, so you have to write it in. Moving it to May 6th in our same location. Yes. All in favor of amending the proposed new schedule to change May 13th to May 6th? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now that that has been amended, now I would like to entertain a motion to approve. Well, I get the
We just-
motion first and then we discuss.
I move that we amend our calendar to move our meeting in April to the 15th, and also except as amended.
Okay, the May 6th. Okay, and a second? Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
Based on our study session as well as the other work that needs to be done, are we sure that having one in May, one in April, one in May, one in June, one in July, and one in early August actually is going to allow us to do the work that needs to be done with boundary study, with all the things that we have going, resolutions, and starting the building of a district office if we so choose? And have we thought through that? And yes, we're good.
I'd like to discuss that. David, I think we go with this schedule, and if we have something come up, we call a meeting. if we need to, so it's not on. Okay, how would that be?
Okay, so based on your experience, which is far more
Yes.
than mine, it's easier to add a meeting than to cancel
And
it.
then to cancel it.
Yes?
You just have to
Okay.
notify.
Okay.
And so we're not setting with a set date.
That
It's just when
suffices.
they
Good.
feel like that work.
Yep, that works for me. Thank you.
Another thought that I had is that I anticipate through the summer, we may have more need of work sessions or study sessions and less need for board meetings. So that was my thought, that we might hold work sessions not in conjunction with the board meeting. So in my mind, I've set aside two weeks for something, but maybe not a full board meeting. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other discussion?
We'll still need to notice our work sessions as
Yes.
well, though, right?
Yes.
Yes, and they
That's-
will be recorded. Yes.
Right, and so I think, especially as
And they'll be
we,
open.
right, as we form our committees around the boundaries and that sort of thing, and we get a better sense of our work and priorities there, then it would make sense for us to then look ahead and see where we calendar those work sessions to get the work done.
And actually, as we've been preparing agendas, sometimes well, especially when I was doing it by myself and I didn't have these two, I was looking for stuff to put on our agenda because we didn't have things. If we didn't have, I mean, we're approving minutes, yes, and sometimes we had other stuff, but there was not a lot. And so I think a lot of the things we're going to do are resolutions that are going to be in this type of meeting, and where we've done all of our formal hirings and such. I see maybe not as much need for the board meetings, but we still want to have them so people can give comment. But I think we're going to have other options with our boundary studies to allow public comment. So, yeah.
I have a question. There's been some lead time with getting,
Is this in regards to the
Yes.
schedule? Okay, great.
for negotiation sessions. Do you anticipate those negotiation discussions and resolutions from those to ramp up over the summer? It's all new territory, so it's hard
Yeah.
to know.
That
I
is a
just
good
wondered from
question.
your perspective, from
Wrap up,
Ramp.
ramp. Oh, I thought you were wrap up. I'm like, I think that's optimistic. Think we're going to be done.
No, ramp up. Are we going to have more
Are we going to have?
need for passing resolutions as the summer goes through?
My sense is that meeting monthly is sufficient to address the needs relating to resolutions around negotiations. I think negotiations will ramp up, but I think the resolutions will be pretty steady and we can address those in the monthly meeting. That's my sense.
Well, I think one of Michelle's points with negotiations,
Now I
does that
understand.
make sense?
Thanks for connecting the dots. Yeah, we have to move to a to a closed session, we have to move from a board meeting.
Yeah, but like what we did in our interviews, we opened the board meeting and then went right to closed session and
Right.
did the interviews and then
Yeah.
closed the closed
Right.
session and then opened the open session and then closed the closed.
So I guess
Well, and it goes to Guy's point.
that's what I was
that-
going to say. It
that
goes to
we
Guy's
can-
point.
If there is a need, then,
Will,
and if it starts, like this is on uncharted territory, negotiating with two other districts to come up with these MOUs that we're doing and all of that is new territory. So I think if we can approve this as it is, that at least gives the public a general idea with the knowledge, the caveat also that we can call additional meetings as needed. And as always, we will have those posted. We will let you know via Facebook, our website. So I think we'll be good. Any other discussion? Guy?
Nope.
You were going towards the mic, I thought. Share some great wisdom. Okay. Okay. So discussion done. So all in favor of passing this new schedule
as it is listed with the substitution of the May 6th for the May 13th meeting that was amended and approved. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Okay, seeing as how there's none opposed, that has been approved.
All right. I wanted to just share a couple of things. The first is that we spent a significant chunk of time last week interviewing really, really qualified for the special school. That'll be the Sharon School, which would be the K-12 portion, and what David has affectionately termed as T-Tech for the adult transition of the Sharon School. And we have those announced here. This was announced this morning to all of Alpine School. We were able to hire Dan Heaps for Sharon K-12 portion. He has been at Horizon last. We feel very fortunate and open this school. Then Melanie Adams has been at Lake Ridge Junior High, and she is highly qualified to take on this adult transition part of the school. And so we're grateful that they are going to be joining us as principals in the Timpanogos School District boundary. They'll still be Alpine School District, obviously, for 1 year, but we are fortunate to get them. Then the other thing I wanted to comment on is we started our school visits this morning, and if Grace or Sterling want to comment at all on that, it was a rich experience. We were at Orem High School, and we were able to have a meeting before school with faculty where we were able to kind of prep them and then get feedback from them through a Google form to sharpen and refine our vision and values that we created in the last study session. And that was a rich experience, followed by a meeting with some parents where we did a very similar thing. And then for me, one of the highlights is we got to dialogue with 8 students from Orem High. And it was fantastic. And I'll let maybe these two comment about that. And then we finished with just talking with the administration. And these visits are so meaningful on multiple levels, but I certainly came away with significant nuance and understanding of, one, how to refine and improve our vision and values, but also just understanding and remembering the realities of daily life in a school. So I don't know if board members Rex or Hilton would like to comment on that.
They can do that during their comments. Is that
yeah.
okay?
That's fine.
Totally fine.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. Guy, Board Member Fugel. Time for board member comments.
Yes, last week there was the big thing at Cascade. I saw Ada there. I don't know how many others made it there before the night got over with, but they knocked it out of the park there. That was just terrific. I've never seen such happy kids and parents and great food. Oh, heavens, it was, and we've got something there, and I hope we can replicate that in all of our other schools as we go forward. And and the other thing is our presentation tonight in a work session on our fine arts. You know, we need to, as this new district, we really need to make that a focal point and take some of those ideas and really implement them, because in the old Alpine, we have had so many great fine arts things, and especially in our elementaries and especially our junior highs. Is unbelievable, some of the productions they put up that I've witnessed over the years. And I says, this is junior high? And I said, they just do such a great job. So we need to build on that program going forward. We really strengthen that. Well, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Board Member Wilson?
I second what Board Member Hugel talked about. It was kind of like Disneyland at Cascade Elementary. It was just packed. The halls were just very, very excited. I also want to encourage everyone to go to the University Place Mall and see our combined junior high and high school art exhibit. They have 2D and 3D art displayed there. I attended last night their opening and their awards little ceremony, and these kids, you know, some of the pieces you look at and you think, oh, that's a little happy accident, but I love their efforts. Some of them are just amazing. And anyway, I encourage everybody to go and see.
Well, I want to report on what happened at Orem High, and I agree it was pretty amazing. But before that, I want to put my little plug in for the fine arts as well, because I've talked to many teachers. I was really excited to hear the work session that we did today, but I think there's even more we can learn, because I think they were heavy on drama, and I'd like to hear more about how we can help our choir, orchestra, band, and those other fine arts, other performing arts do as well. Because I would like to be a destination district. And while I'm at it, I want to put a little plug out to all the elementary schools that it's play season. And I went to see Frozen at Westmore, and that was an incredible play. And I was so impressed with how they could change a dress so fast in the Frozen song, you know. And my school is doing a play at Orem High this weekend. You're all invited to. It's Alice in Wonderland Junior. It's free. Just come and enjoy. On Friday, 2 shows on Saturday, and on Monday night. As for Orem High and going and talking to them about vision, mission, values, it was kind of an incredible experience. I knew it would be good. I didn't realize how good it would be. I wish we had a little bit more time with the faculty at the beginning. I feel like probably because we started a little late, we didn't get to talk to them quite as much as I would have liked. But the student section was incredible, because having 8 students with a bunch of adults, you'd think that they wouldn't talk too much, but I don't know if it's just Joe's sparkling personality or it was Peter Glass.
It was mine.
It was you. But they just opened up, and I loved having our draft of our vision in front of them, so they could pick out the words that resonated with them, the things that they really thought were good, and what they saw in teachers that did a really good job for them. And anyway, how we can kind of promote those things that just make education better for our students. And also, I was also very impressed with the admin and talking to our administration and their administration, hearing from them and having them candidly be able to talk to us and see what words they also saw in our vision statement that they think will be powerful and really important. So it was really good. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm excited for the rest of you to have the opportunity that we had.
I'm going to take off a school board hat and put on a PTA hat, but it will tie back to our area. Last Thursday, I was able to attend the Alpine School District Region PTA Awards Night, where the PTA honors administrators, support staff, teachers, volunteers, programs, and advocacy efforts. And our area was so well represented, and I just want to give our PTAs in our area kudos. It takes a lot of effort to write those awards. It takes excellent people to be the winners at that level, and it just shows how blessed we are to have such quality and excellence in Timpanogos school boundaries, Timpanogos school district boundaries. So thank you for letting me say that.
Just thank you, Superintendent Jensen, for hiring and working so hard to get Sharon and there's not affection to T-Tech. I think it's catchy, but not affection. I don't have affection towards that. I know both Dan and Melanie from previous years, and they're both quality educators, quality leaders. Excited for them. Also, for the board to know, my wife drove by Sharon Elementary a couple days ago, and there was big trucks out front doing work. So they have started, and Superintendent Jensen's reported back to me that they've cleaned out a lot of all the rooms from just stuff. There's a lot of stuff there, and they cleaned that all out, and now they're ready to kind of do some of the architecture and kind of start working on that. And then for the public, we have scheduled at least one, but I think 3 or maybe even 4 meetings with our municipalities. So the board will be going to Orem. I think it's on the 15th of April, if I'm not mistaken, or thereabouts, and be able to meet with the Orem City Council and the mayor there, and to be able to have those dialogues. And I think that's one of the benefits of being our district is there's only 4 municipalities, and we can partner with those 4 and really listen to them and have them listen to us and be able to have a true partnership there. And so I'm excited to meet with those, starting with Orem, I think, and then I think the other ones are coming down the road. Thank you.
Okay, I'll continue on David's statement. We are also meeting with Pleasant Grove City on the 29th of April, and then with Linden on May 4th. And then we're still waiting to set something up with Vineyard. So we're excited about that and having those great relationships with our municipalities. They did a fabulous job in getting us set up and started early days with our interlocal. I also want to give a shout out to Rocky Mountain Elementary. I was able to go and watch The Lion King. Wow. That performance was just amazing. It kind of knocked my socks off. I was, as these little lionesses, these little 3rd, 4th grade girls walk in with their little buns, and it was so well done. Kudos to them for the good work that they did there. Also, if you didn't watch our work session, we talked as a board about how our process and our thoughts about moving forward with our boundary study. It's going to be very intentional. I am looking forward to, I know doing these, I'm also looking forward to the visits with Dr. Jensen going out to the schools, but just our facility visits and going out and seeing the schools. I really feel like it's just been this great opportunity to be an information gatherer. And as we've gone to each campus, that's what we've done. We're just gathering information. And I see this boundary study as that same, just continuing on and just gathering information. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, are you so worried about this?" And it's going to cause so much angst, and you're going to have people yelling at you. And but I really have been able to think of it. It's just we're gathering information. Each of these people, each of our stakeholders, our parents, our teachers, our principals, they have information. And I'm so looking forward to learning that and gaining that information as we go forward and make these decisions. So looking forward to that coming up. That's all I have.
I would echo what Grace said. I followed in her footsteps, I guess. I also saw Frozen Jr. at Westmore Elementary. Who knew that elementary schools could put on such great productions? I mean, they are a lot of fun. And so Alice in Wonderland Jr. this weekend, I'm going to put it on my calendar. I'd like to also just echo how wonderful it was to meet with Orem High School, both the faculty, the teachers, the administrators, but especially the students. And I just want to share a couple of things that I wrote down from what the students were saying. When they were asked the question, and these were juniors, sophomores and juniors, they were asked, what helps you grow the most when you're learning? What's most helpful to you if you're learning? They came back with some pretty specific thoughts about that. And I would capture them in 2 general areas. One, there was clearly, they recognized how important it was to be engaged and interactive and active in their learning. They did not grow as much when they were simply passively receiving information as when they were actively engaged in collaborating and talking and in working together. And they acknowledged, one person acknowledged that sometimes that put them in a vulnerable position, but that actually put them in a position where they were then more open to growing and to learning. So it was so insightful. The other general area that they recognize is they grew the most and learned best when they were encouraged by teachers, when they were encouraged by friends, and when they knew that their teachers wanted them to succeed and were willing to help them do so. I just found that very inspiring that they were aware of what conditions helped them learn. I'm really glad that we're involving them in our information gathering around our vision and values because they're the ones that are most directly impacted, and I think they have some things to help us process.
Okay. And if you are interested in these visits that are going to be happening, please reach out to the principal, would you say, at the school that you're most connected to, and they can let you know when those will be. I don't think we're really limiting it to any public that want to come. So please do that. We have no need to go into a closed session tonight. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion from Board Member Sorensen.
I second it.
Second from Board Member Rex. All in favor of adjourning? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you guys all for coming.